This is a short discussion of assignment 1 for the VT2600 course. The assignment is to choose an image where you can obtain a selection of some object in the image and change its color. Now this, as you can see, is a fire hydrant that's the standard red color. We're going to change it to another color. The criteria of this assignment, the things that I'm going to be looking for, are accuracy of selection, realistic color of the change, or if you choose to go with a surreal color, that's fine too, as long as it's obvious enough. For example, you could paint stripes on this fire hydrant, although that could present some more problems, and I would suggest that you don't do that for this assignment. Wait till you have some other skills that we'll discuss later in the semester. This particular picture does present some problems with the chain that is on this fire hydrant. That's some very tight and detailed kind of selection issues. You may want to choose something better than this or easier than this for your first assignment. Find something that has nice hard edges, easy to select, not too detailed like this. That chain does give me some concern. Also, I don't want you to take a grayscale image and colorize it. That's something that you'll do later. I don't want you to just pay attention to the actual assignment as I've outlined what I want you to do. And I have some examples posted online. So don't try to run ahead. Just do a very good job with this and score the points, and then we can move on. So in this case, I have a selection that I've already obtained. Let me load that here, and you can see as we zoom up on this that I have spent some time getting the chain and the selection of that chain. That required some extra time. Remember the 4 phases that we have worked with in the past, or that we've discussed as part of investing the time for selection. I do have some issues. You can see some right along this edge of the fire hydrant. That isn't quite right, but we'll see what that looks like. If I zoom back out to 100%, notice that I have also, I'll drop this selection and load just the chain. I wanted to separate that so that I could set that as a different color, okay, or protect it so that it didn't get changed in terms of its color. So what do you do with this? What we want to talk about is how do you approach the process of changing the color of the fire hydrant. We will assume that you already have your selection, that you're ready to go, that you've applied your best techniques to getting an accurate selection, that you're ready to do the color change. If you do this in a way that will let you keep your options open, as in no pixels are harmed, then you will be able to make changes, try things, make adjustments, try something else. It'll keep your options open. You'll be working smarter, not harder, but smarter. And so that's the way we want to approach this. Let me stop at this point and configure that so that you can see what I'm doing with the palettes. Otherwise you won't understand the parts that I'm changing. So we'll stop here for a moment till I get that set up. Okay, I've moved the layers and channels palettes over onto the main screen on my computer so that you can see the arrangement of those elements in this image. We see in the channels, of course, the red, green, and blue channels is an RGB document. We have two alpha channels, the selection for the hydrant and a selection for the chain specifically, as I showed you earlier. And in the layers we have just the basic background image. Now, if the goal here is to not harm any pixels, we don't want to do anything that would change the color of those pixels permanently in case we change our mind. And so the approach we would use is to use adjustment layers. Before we do that, we want to ensure that we are looking at this image with the proper colors. Color is going to be very critical here. So under the edit menu, we want to assign a profile. Want to make sure that our profile is the Adobe RGB color profile, not the sRGB, but the Adobe RGB. And we click the OK button, and it will make some subtle adjustments to the way color is being presented. But the second part is under the View menu, we want to make sure that we are looking at colors using the proper calibrations. So under View menu, Proof Setup, Monitor RGB, which means it will use the values that the graphics card is putting onto the screen, and then we want to turn on Proof Colors. And if you notice that when we turn that off and on, notice that the color changes subtly. Proper color, this isn't as saturated as it first appears. It's more real. We may want to make some changes and pump the color a little bit if that's what we desire to do, but we at least should start out with our colors being proofed and we know exactly what we're looking at. Okay, first thing I want to do is load the selection of the hydrant. I can go to the Select menu and choose Load Selection, and I can choose between the two alpha channels, hydrant, main, and it will load that selection, and we can see the marching ants. I'm going to deselect that. I want to show you a shortcut. We talked about this in class. If I move my cursor over to the channels palette, put my cursor over that thumbnail of the hydrant alpha channel and hold down the Command key or the Control key on the Windows computer, Command key on the Mac, and click once, it will load the selection without having to go through the pull down menus and the dialog boxes and the pull down menus and clicking OK. It's a quicker way to accomplish that right here. Once I have that, how would I approach color change? If we use the paintbrush, yes, we have the marching ants to stay inside the lines, but if I use the paintbrush, that's going to permanently change the colors of the image. So my preference will be to use an adjustment layer. I'm going to use the hue and saturation values that are in my a choice of adjustment layer, and I click OK. Notice that I add another layer to the layers palette. This is an adjustment layer that will affect all layers below it. And let me move my, I just wanted to use this properties palette here. I think this might be as good a place as any. Once I have an adjustment layer in place, this is the control for it. Notice when I select to a different layer, that goes away, but when I have an adjustment layer, this will be my control. So if I change the hue, I can change the hue of this fire hydrant without much trauma because I've already invested the time to get the selection right. That way, now that I am in this situation, it won't take very long to actually accomplish the color change that I want to make. Now, as we note, let's back up, turn this off for a moment, go back to the red. there's a couple different reds going on here. Some are different hue. It's got some worn areas. It's got some parts that aren't so interesting, so saturated. If we just shift the hue, it's a relative shift that will change. Oops, I need to turn it on. That will change all of those different colors in relative ways. In other words, we're still seeing the the dirt on the surface of the hydrant and so on, which gives it a more realistic look. If we wanted to, we could force it all to be the same color by using the colorize. And notice that it pushes everything to the same color, including the chain. In this case, that's not necessarily a good thing. So if I turn off the colorize, the chain is left alone for the most part. Not all of it, but most of it, because it actually has no color. The silver color of the chain is really just an off-white. So we can't do a hue shift when there's no color to hue to change. Silver being no color, or something close to that. But so I'm gonna go with a blue, a nice blue. My hue slider shows me I'm over in the red, but really what I'm doing is wherever I was, I'm 138 degrees counterclockwise on the color wheel. From there, it's a relative hue shift. I can adjust my saturation. Do I want it really heavy saturated or not so saturated? If I desaturate it, it goes gray. So I want some blue in it. I don't want to overdo it. I think I'll just leave it at 0. And I can also adjust lightness and darkness. So I think I'll stay with 0 on that as well. No compelling reason to have those changes. That's my blue. Now I need to fix the chain because the chain is picking up some of that blue. I'm going to leave that where it is, and I'm going to now load the chain selection separately, and I'm going to put an adjustment layer for the chain, and we'll do another hue and saturation on that. This one will be on top of the other, and that will let me in fact desaturate the chain, which pulls all of the color out. And I may even brighten it up just a little bit. You can see how I can enhance this, make it look a little nicer. So I've taken the color completely out of the chain. It's a gray color. I could push it all the way to white. That looks like plastic. I don't want that. So I want some silver. If I can make it black. No. So I'm thinking I'll push that just a little bit to brighten the chain, maybe about a +10, and I've got a good situation. Now what that means is I've got 2 adjustment layers on my image that are overriding the original pixels of the image, but I can turn those off at any time and I can return back to my basic image. No pixels have been harmed. This is the technique that I want you to be aware of and to consider as you work on your assignment.